Okay, guys, welcome back to the second virtual seminar for Accra Fashion Week. This is the Summer Hamatan 2021 edition, where we're going virtual with fashion shows, seminars, and various activities. This time, we're going to look at branding for the designers. We started off looking at buyers. You can get that, or you can follow up with that on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Accra Fashion Week. This time, we're going to have guest Innocent, the CEO of fashionpivot.com, as well as Moulaye, who is the founder and CEO of Afrikrea, which is a very big online store available to various designers. When it comes to the field of branding, as the CEO and owner of Fashion Ghana, as well as the founder of Accra Fashion Week, we tend to learn that there's a very big vacuum that needs to be filled for our brands. Most designers like to believe that the work and their talent and their skills is what's going to drive them forward. But in the world of perception, this is very different. Using celebrities, for example, as we see here in Ghana, it's very easy for someone to become a celebrity. You can say something vulgar about another person. You can do something stupid on social media. You can even maybe display nudity, and you'll see your popularity as a celebrity rise. But popularity and branding is different, and that's where most of our designers are falling short. They tend to feel like by simply popularizing themselves, they're executing the link between them and their clients. Whereas when it comes to branding is what makes the client want to get your product. So for example, everyone can be popular, but just because you have a popular brand doesn't mean people want to buy into it. So I'll be speaking with our guests to see how designers can connect themselves from being popular to being marketable and being appealing, and just because you popularize yourself doesn't mean you are necessarily going to translate to sales. If you look at brands like Nike and Gucci, they're totally different. But Nike would always use certain characteristics for its advert. It will use strength, it will use sports, it will use certain figures to present a message that appeals to people that wear Nike clothes. In fact, even to the very T of where they market their stuff. On the other hand, Gucci might focus in high-end magazines, runway fashion weeks, top-notch models, which would be a slight different approach from Nike. And all of this is to make sure that they're hitting their target and they're hitting their market. So what is branding, and why is branding missing from the culture of African fashion, and what can designers do to change that? Or we would also look at lessons that you can learn and pick up and add to your works as a designer to move forward. So I'm going to bring in our two guests, Innocent Quarshie, and then Moulaye. Okay, waiting for the screen to appear. Okay. We're waiting for Innocent's screen. Okay, so Innocent's screen is taking quite a while, but if you can just, Moulaye, if you can just give us like a 1-minute introduction of who you are and what you do.
Hi, so Afrikrea.com, yes. Innocent is here.
Yeah, but go ahead with the intro, and then we'll go to him.
Okay. Hi again. So Afrikrea.com is the biggest marketplace of anything made of Africa. So basically anything inspired by Africa, by our culture, may it be fashion, art, handicraft, or food, or beauty. So we just crossed over $10 million of transaction on the platform since inception. Nowadays, we not only offer the marketplace as an avenue for selling, but also a lot of services for sellers, including services to ship with DHL cheaper than ever and quicker than ever, straight from the website, and services, of course, to be more visible or to manage better your money and get paid easily over the web. So that's how you can resume.
Once you find a way to include 10 million in your introduction, you got a better introduction. All right, Pivot, let us know. Sorry, Innocent, let us know about fashion PR and pivot.com, fashionpivot.com, and more. In 1 minute, just a brief introduction.
Okay, my name is Innocent, as mentioned by you, and then Fashion Pivot is into fashion publication and then fashion PR. Most of the time, I realize the Ghanaian market. We don't have, aside Fashion Ghana, few other blocks, we don't have much voice for the designers. So that influence fashion people. And for fashion PR, when it comes to designers here, they don't know how to communicate their creative process and also their creative products or services. So that is what Fashion Pivot handles when it comes to communication of fashion brands.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So I want to start with you, Moulaye. And first of all, before I continue, I just want to say to the guests that we have two great audience. In fact, I think each of them, I could actually do a whole show just talking to them and picking their brains about their experiences. So I'm a bit flabbergasted that we're limiting this to Brandon. But maybe as we cover that topic, we might touch on some other issues and what have you. But let's come to you, Moulaye. When we talk about Brandon, how do you feel that it affects the designers that are selling on your platform? Because I know that some designers on your platform, I don't know if I should say the names, but I'll just
names. Yeah.
I know, for example, Grassfields, they do a lot of branding and a lot of promotion. And then I know some designers, I've not heard nothing about them until you post them on your page. Explain to us how the ones who are falling short with branding are doing compared to the ones who are really working on their brands.
Of course, it's, I think, an important part of the reason of the success or attraction of some brands rather than others. It's clear. What I might say from my experience personally with branding, because I'm not a marketing and PR guy, so I will let Innocent discuss the details of the how. I think that most designers, confuse the effort of getting known, the communication effort with branding. Branding is not only the communication and not only the publicity you do. It's also, for us at Afrikrea, the way we see branding the most effectively impacting sales is the coherence of your universe. It's how current your product looks, how current your shop looks, and how, I might say, attractive your products looks. So branding is something that generally on Afrikrea we link with, for example, the quality given off by your shop. Because, people don't see the product, they cannot touch it. So for some product, the issue is that, especially with new designers, you cannot even tell what is special about the product. Because either they take not the best pictures, and sometimes even if they take the good pictures, they don't put the effort into the description of the product, into their story, their storytelling about what is special about this product to get people to understand the value behind it. So for us, branding goes much further because, of course, I could speak a lot about branding on social media, on press and etc. But that's not our avenue. That's not my specialty. But I can say to designers, and especially for small designers, branding starts with what you do with your product. So which models you're using, how current you are in using your model. Do you keep using the same model? Do your model look like your target market, for example? Another thing that's important. Some people come to us and say, okay, I want to sell in the US, and they take a skinny white girl, for example, as their model, which doesn't look like the most common African American clients they're looking for. And so it's even harder for their clients to relate to the brand. And this is a plain and simple example of how deep branding can go in terms of execution. It's not only having a good photographer. You cannot outsource branding. That's what I mean. Branding is not something you can outsource. And so you can ask for help, execute on your branding decision. But most of it is your coherence and your consistency in your actions everywhere through the production of your product to when you give it to the customer.
And before I move to Innocent, I wanted to ask one question. For people who don't know, Afrikrea is a large online store that allows anyone to register and log in and upload their products and sell it. Is there any margin that at some point Afrikrea comes in and says, no, this is not good enough, we're not going to allow this on our store? Is there?
That happens only if the products are not compliant with our guidelines. So basically, the guidelines are more in introduction in terms of forbidden products, such as whitening products or something like that, skin whitening products,
Okay,
something like that.
bleaching and yeah.
Yeah. Or for example, using other people's picture. That's something also we are very stringent about, especially in Africa. Some tailors have the tendency to use pictures found online of other brands and just use it, and that's a no, something we are not engaging in when we are very strict on.
But branding wise, so sorry to cut you, but branding wise, from a branding perspective, are there people who come and you be like, no, this photography is so that's not okay. Okay.
No, that's not happening because generally what we see from our experience, Africa, we've been doing that for almost 5 years now. So one thing we notice is that brands can progress, and especially that's my avenue of, I might say, of revenue. That's how we make more money, if when I'm able to build such a community that the smallest brand can get to progress and understand and get better. So if I don't do that, I'm actually not doing my job well enough. So yes, I'm taking anyone.
All right. So Pivot, sorry, Innocent.
Yep.
I am very well into your blog, Fashion Pivot.
With a pivot, very
blog at fashionpivot.com, and I commonly call him Pivot. So if you hear that, understand. Okay, you've been blogging about designers for a while, obviously from different countries, Europe, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. Where would you say Ghanaian designers fall short when it comes to branding?
Okay, when it comes to branding, basically branding is just a marketing practice of creating a name, symbols, or ideologies so that you can be distinct from others. That is what branding basically is. So I've realized most Ghanaian, let's say West African designers lack brand identification. Most of them, they just rush with their logos. That is the first thing to check as a brand. Even though you are in the fashion industry, but think about the future. You can find yourself in different markets as a mother brand. So most of them rush into their logos, and then communication on the brand, their core missions, core values and stuff. They end up messing up things in the journey. Because one, you want to create a luxury brand, but you find yourself creating a fast fashion brand to other consumers. That means you are not creating an image to the consumers you are trying to attract, or a perceived image. So they end up confusing themselves, and then in as much branding might take time, if you could follow your core your missions, and then in the long run, you definitely going to achieve whatever you're going to achieve. But we find ourselves that most designers rush, and then they do so many things without focusing on their goals. So that is one thing I've identified about most designers when it comes to brand identification.
And I wanted to ask you this question because one thing to me that I find very appalling about some of the designers, you know, when we're looking around as a blogger and looking for content on their social media, is this habit of not treating their social media pages as something that's for their brand. Like you would go on there and you would see them celebrating their birthdays or dancing to or their football team, and I find it hard to figure out if our designers really understand what the concept of, or not the concept, the importance of branding. Is it that they don't know that these things put people off? Or is it, I mean, we have so many fashion schools, and yet the idea of branding in Africa is almost unknown. Like, you know, I don't know. Do you have anything that you can say to that about how you find their social media pages, Innocent?
Okay, it's quite sad that when we get into most of our Ghanaian designers' pages or West African designers, we end up finding stuff that are not relevant to maybe a communicator. So when it comes to designers here, what I was saying earlier on, they've not identified the space they want to be known for. So you find them posting a whole lot of stuff, and then the major problem is they don't have PRs on board. As a creative person, I've realized something, but there is no a concrete research on that. I've realized that most creative people are unable to communicate whatever they've created. Just a few that they are so lucky to have the communication aspect and then the creative part. So they just feel like, okay, this is nice. This is so appealing to my market. And then they just post. To them, they feel it's nice, but there is no process whereby the designers have a team so that they could communicate whatever they post. But that is what we find ourselves in. And it's so sad and so bad, but I think the only best decision designers can take or have is to, if they can pay PR practitioners or communicators to handle their social media, I think the best thing they can do is to have friends on board so that they can communicate whatever before they post. And they should give much more details to whatever they post. Detailing is important.
And so I want to bring that to you, Moulaye, because when we look at the rise of African fashion, it's almost synonymous with the rise of social media. Because before social media, the main platforms for fashion were all these high-end magazines, TVs, and foreign channels and shows and celebrities that Africans knew they weren't going to reach. So by social media and internet coming in the game, we see that now people around the world are seeing the beauty of African fashion and the talent of our designers, and it's being embraced more, the print and what have you. But alongside that also comes with the theft of African designs and culture by Western brands that I feel like, oh my God, this thing is picking up a wave and it's becoming fashionable. Let's start doing print. And we've seen so many major brands and European brands doing it. So your platforms like yours are giving leverage in addition to the social media, because now you can also buy it because of platforms like Afrikrea. So literally the only thing that's now missing between the African brands and the Western brands is this concept of PR. That's how I feel. Do you think that with what's going on right now, the brands that are heavily engaged in PR are sort of leveraging or making just as much money as some of the Western brands, some of the top Western brands?
That's an interesting question. You know, I was lucky in our experience at Afrikrea to work with other marketplaces and other fashion brands that were Western and, you know, very French, for example. And one thing I noticed is that contrarily to popular belief, for once, I believe we are particularly hard on African brands, but the issue they are facing, all the brands in the fashion world face it. PR is an issue for everyone.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm not trying to give us excuses, because of course we are lacking a lot and aiming for a lot. So I like people having the ambition of being better than the rest. But this issue of being able to brand, you know, one thing that I can say is that even the fashion brands that I met that are in France, or even the fashion marketplace that I saw in France, it's not only a matter of saying I'm taking PR seriously. It's a matter of actually in yourself. One thing that Innocent that is interesting is your brand is how you distinguish yourself. Okay, that requires a high level of self-awareness for the founder of the brand. And self-awareness means being able to know that there are some things you cannot do, you need help with, maybe pictures, photography, or communication. But more importantly, also it's an understanding of the market. And that's where I feel that maybe African brands are having a little issue. It's not only because of their training, it's because they are facing the difficulty of entering a market they have no prior experience from and not much sharing. Kind of what we do here today, it's hard for African brands to get a sense of what is to be done and what is not to be done, and what is happening behind the success story they see. Because I feel like there is less content, less literature, less information going around about what works and what doesn't. That's my feeling, rather than from every brand I've ever spoken of, even the smallest one on Afrikrea, they all understand the need for PR. None of them are unaware of it. Most of them is just that, one, they don't know how to use it. Two, they don't have the means to actually be able to do it properly. And the last thing that I think is the most important, they have no real understanding of how they can do it even at small scale. You know, what you said earlier about having mixed content in their social media, to some extent, I completely agree with you. You know, if you have beautiful pictures and then an ugly video of someone dancing, it doesn't work. But even if you have a consistent, for example, because I know some brands people sell because they like the owners, they like the story, they like the lifestyle, that can work, but you have to be consistent. You have, for example, to every week do a content that is sharing a message that is appealing to your audience. You can do it with saying, okay, I'm a fashion brand, but I love football. You can say that. So you're targeting people that love football like you, etc., etc. But the effort in the consistency and the messaging you're doing is something designers are not familiar with. And to another extent, to their defense, that's something that even, because I have the particularity of doing, of course, a fashion platform, but first and foremost, I'm also a startup as itself, a tech startup. And I can tell you that this issue is also affecting tech startups in Africa. It's not something that is exclusive to fashion brands. It's pretty much any entrepreneur at some point. What will set you apart is either your ability to execute properly, to service your customer efficiently, or to some extent to other people, it's going to be how well you position yourself in the market. And that's something that you need to learn. It's hard. It's not something that you can do. Some people are innately very good at it. Some of us are not. I will give you an example that you gave, grass fields. People keep talking to me about grass fields. Yes, of course, they have the biggest following on social media, etc., etc. But did you notice that they don't even are verified on Instagram?
They're not. Yeah, I noticed.
And for example, and I know, I asked them why they are not verified, and they tried. They will never be verified. And I even asked Facebook, because when we were verified, I asked Facebook, how come this big brand with an amazing content is not verified? You know what they told me? They told me that there is no trace online proving that Grassfield is a famous brand. So there is not enough press.
Yeah, and that is this is actually coming to a reason. I don't know if this is relative to Brandon. Maybe it might be a little break, or it might tie back to Brandon. But this is why I really appreciate what you are doing, because we sell clothes on Fashion Ghana as well, and we wanted to come and have them placed on Afrikrea, but we've been busy with a whole bunch of things. But initially, we also used to sell on Etsy, right? And I don't care if what I say, if it damages their name, I'm going to, and I'm sure you'd have heard what I'm come to talk. We used to sell on Etsy, and they woke up one day and gave us a bogus reason why they're cutting us off. We used to sell loads of clothes. And they woke up one day, gave us a bogus reason why they're cutting us off. And we fought it on the email conversations, but they still went ahead with it later on. In the process of us doing Accra Fashion Week, we came to find out that there were many other African designers that had been randomly cut off Etsy for various random reasons. Now, this is the first time, Moulaye, you and I are talking ever in this whole world. So by you shaking your head, you must know something. And to me, I think there's a fight back or a pushback by the big social media platforms against African fashion. I don't know if you might feel that way, but tell me what you would know about Etsy, the way you were shaking your head.
What I would know about Etsy is that from experience, you know, Etsy is faced with the issue of they grew up serving sellers first. Okay, that's how Etsy was known. And now they are facing the dilemma of any, I might say, a big company that is, because they are in the stock market now, they are pushing for numbers and they are focused on customers' experience rather than sellers' experience. And that's why they tend to now, for some, from I think involuntarily, but consistently pushing away sellers that do not meet what they think their customer want. It's something that is not, it's not something that I think they do specifically for African fashion. I heard the same thing. I heard the same thing. I heard the same thing against Etsy from brands that are not African fashion oriented, but for example, ethnicity and exotic oriented. For example, from Asia, and they said the same thing. Is Etsy has started as something that is very do it yourself. Now it's anything basically. Even if you sell something from China, you go there. And they are struggling to try to moderate properly, so they go overboard, especially on brands and trends they don't know. When they don't know a brand, when they don't know a trend, they tend to be defiant. They don't trust it because it doesn't look like what they know. And I think that's something that's everywhere.
Well, the thing with us and Etsy, and I'll come to Innocent in a second. The thing with us and Etsy, we had a very professional, we had photography, we had professional models, we had great pictures. They came back and they said that their platform is for sole creatives only, which means that people who make their stuff. And we had stuff that we make and stuff from other Ghanaian fashion brands. So they said because we're selling things by other designers, they're taking us off. We go back to them and said, well, it's only about 20% of the stuff that's by other designers. We can take that off. And they just kept arguing to it. And then they said, we need to prove that we are who we are. So I sent them my passport. And the email signature of Accra Fashion Week had my secretary's name on it. So they looked at the email signature and they said, hey, you're not Abigail. Or you're not. It's some really stupid reason, and then they shut the account down. It was just the dumbest thing. And as I started doing Accra Fashion Week, I just kept meeting designer after designer, African designer, that just said they have randomly been shut down by Etsy. But it could be what you're saying, or it could be my suspicion.
No. I really feel like what you describe is a lack of interest, a lack of effort, and a general defiance against what you don't know. And that's something that I think it's something that affects, anyone in the Western world, basically, because these people are not used to have, of course, people out of Africa doing business on their platform. It's not, Etsy is not even intended for people on Africa. They don't know how to pay out people in Africa. They don't care about paying out people in Africa. So for them, it's kind of, how are you selling and why are you selling here? I'm not looking for you. And that's why also we create Afrikrea, is because to some extent, we don't need them to help us sell.
No.
Actually, like it's not like
and that's why I'm proud of what you're doing. That's why I'm proud of what you're doing, But let's get back to Brandon from the short break. Innocent, and I'm going to ask Innocent this, and I'll ask you the same question after, okay? I think there's probably only about 4 brands I've seen in the whole of Africa writing for Fashion Ghana that if I see their stuff, I can say this designer has made it. I don't think there are any fashion brands that have a synonymous theme that runs through their designs or what they do. And this is what I mean by branding. When you are branding well and someone sees, I mean, not all the time, but generally when someone sees your stuff without knowing that you made it, they should be able to get a sense that this design belongs to you. I've never seen a brand in Africa, maybe about 4 so, 2 maybe in South Africa, wherever. What do you have to say about that and how our designers are really creating their identities in Africa? And let me add to that before you come in. I think, because in Africa, we don't have as much wealth as the West, our aim here is to make whatever sells. So if we see tomorrow this is selling, we're going to forget what our signature is, and we're just going to create that. Palazzo pants, I'm going to do this. Crop top, I'm going to do that. What do you have to say about that mentality, Innocent?
Yeah, I think we can still do with the pivot if it comes up. It's quite sad this is coming up. The difference between we and the European market is they have the capital. And you find yourself, a designer in Africa, find himself doing the illustration, doing the cutting, so instead of sitting down with a team to brainstorm on identity, it becomes very difficult because you are the only one involved in the process. So it's quite like, okay, let me work on this few stuff, and then when I get my money, I'm okay to go. So that is what we are facing. We are facing, a lot of people are creative here, but the more you have more people on board, the creative process becomes very easy, and then you can shine outside. So we lack the capital, and then the togetherness. That's one thing we lack, and that is really affecting the type of images we are creating in our works.
Okay, the togetherness, I want to come to that one. But first, I want to throw the question to Moulaye. Moulaye, how do you feel about this whole thing about identity? Are there any brands that you are dealing with on Afrikrea that when you see their stuff, you know, this is it? Or do you have just a bunch of people just trying to make what they have to make so they can sell?
No, you know, that's simple. To answer your question, you were right. Any brand that managed to sell over $2,000 a month on Afrikrea, so what we call top selling brand, has this quality you talk about. It's simple. Like anyone, even someone that never saw them before, you see their product. I can show you their product maybe 2 weeks later, and you will be like, oh, I think I've already seen that somewhere, because it marks people. It's coherent. That's really that's one thing that I say to our brands when they ask me, okay, what can I do to sell better? The first thing I say to them is, first, put products often. If you're not creating, you're not selling. That's the word I'm always selling. Because a lot of designers, like you say, they create one product here, and 2 times a year they do a collection. That's not anymore available, and never worked, actually. You need to have an ongoing creative stream. And when you're ongoing and you keep it doing every month, you get more consistent. You will use the same models, you will use the same pictures, the same place, the same. You know, there is one brand, for example, we have on Africa that people talk a lot about, that is Mangishido.
Yes, Zambia or Zimbabwe, it's one of them. Yes.
It's from Zambia. And you know, every time someone sees her thing, they're always mad impressed. And they always ask me, wow, this is beautiful. And I always tell our designers, you see, people love them. And she is one of the designers that spend the less money doing photography. She uses her phone. She takes pictures in front of the wall of her house. And she's the one posting. So it's not even a question of means. It's not a question of resources. She's consistent. She keeps creating the same energy, the same style of product in the same environment with the same feeling. And you see her product, you see, even I told you her name, you even remember the country she's from, because it's rare.
Right. You're right.
And that's all the brands that sell well on Africa have this quality. So it's undeniably and undeniably the one quality that helps people stand out to any degree.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate on that. Basically, if you're a designer and you're watching this, it's always best not to always chase what you think is trending, but to stick to your signature style. Even if something is trending, you can apply it to your signature style, but don't lose your signature style just because you say, because what happens is you then lose your identity, and then someone will look at the person who might buy that stuff tomorrow won't buy your other stuff. But when you have that consistency, someone buys your palazzo pants with this sort of fabric or this sort of design or trademark on it, then they see a top with that same feel, they want to go for it. So I think the point is to not lose yourself. Find something and stick to it, whether it's a style, whether it's an image, whatever. Now, Pivot, you mentioned togetherness, and I want to come to that because, and I'm going to have to admit something I don't want to admit over here, all right? But I'm going to have to. Okay, Fashion Ghana is actually also an online boutique. In fact, that was our original starting point. And I remember one time looking at Afrikrea, and I was like, damn, we could have been these guys. Like, how can we boost ourselves to surpass them? And I was in this mentality for like about 20 minutes. And then I thought, why am I being disturbed? I can actually sell my stuff on Afrikrea. Like, and I think this is what happens a lot in Africa. Like, we see something that we can work with, but automatically we turn it into a competitor or something that we're against. And luckily for me, that was only for a few minutes, but there's some people that are looking at what I do, what you do, what Moulaye is doing, and they're sitting down bitter or treating them as a competitor. Being a blogger in Africa, Pivot, how do you think our businesses or our creators are being limited by the lack of togetherness?
Okay, I'll take it from the genesis of stuff. I'll blame the fashion schools
Okay.
in Africa. This is what they do. Everyone is attending fashion schools to become a designer, forgetting there are different or various aspects in the fashion industry. So let's say we are all in the fashion school. I can be good in cutting. You are good in cutting. And then another is good with sewing. Another is good with illustration. Why can't the three of us come together and form a brand? So the fashion schools are not having curriculums that will help the designers come together and form a brand. For example, project works back then in the tertiary. I read marketing and I found myself reading PR again. So back then in the tertiary, you find your professors grouping you in together to come up with a project topic and then you work on it. So after the project topic, you realize you have a solid team. You guys can come up with a brand. Few of my colleagues have done that and it's really working. And I think if the fashion industry could employ this strategy, having them to work on a project together, I think this problem will end from the fashion schools before they find themselves in the market.
Right.
So I think that is basically it. The problem is the fashion schools.
And I think that's an amazing point, because I wanted to come to the fashion schools, but I wanted to come to it on a different angle. I wanted to come to it on the fact that they're not teaching branding. But you've brought a very important point. What you're saying is that the fashion schools are only training people to be designers. So everyone comes out being a designer and a competitor, and there's no togetherness. Whereas they could be teaching someone to be an illustrator, a marketer, whatever else. And then when they come out, they connect themselves together and become a team to work towards a particular goal. So I think that's very important, that, linking the lack of togetherness to the fashion schools is very essential. But I wanted to also, so before we get to the schools and the branding, I also want to get to Moulaye about what I talked about, because I won't lie, I was on a laptop and I was seeing the Afrikrea ad and I was like, Fashion Ghana should be here. Let me hurry up and finish Accra Fashion Week so I can start doing my sponsored ads and compete. And the moment I took that idea out my mind, honestly, the moment I took that idea out my mind, I said, wow, these guys are doing great for Africa. The moment I took myself out, and then I said, and I can work with them. We can even sell Fashion Ghana on them. Then it changed from let me hurry up and finish Accra Fashion Week and compete to let me finish up with Accra Fashion Week and work with them. So how do you feel being in Africa, the tension between competitors and designers and is affecting us from do you have people who are not happy that you're doing well and don't want to see it? Like, how is that? I honestly hate to talk about the concept of haters, but in your circle, how does it affect you?
I'm going to take it from something that is funnier in the storyline, is that Afrikrea, we never really had haters because people generally despised us.
Wow.
Most of the time. Of the time, and that's also one of the reasons why actually we succeed, is because we are not fashion people, and that's that's an explanation of why we never had I might say the internal conflict of saying this should be sold and this should be sold, or this is what should be done. We really came to serve people, to serve designers, to serve customers, and to try to make transaction happen. So because we were not personally involved and not personally, I might say, experienced in the domain, we really took it from a blank stare. We really didn't even try to bring in what we know. And people, every time I met, even maybe right now it changed. To be honest, our size made it so that people actually change the way they look at us. But before, I can guarantee you that every other marketplace or website creating or any other, even any fashion week organization or etc., didn't even talk to us. I remember, for example, I sent plenty emails to Omoyemi of Lagos Fashion Week before, 5 years ago when we started, and I never even got a response.
But you're sponsored now. But now you're
now she's responsible. Yeah, now we talk often. Now we talk often.
Yeah.
Now we talk often. And when I ask her why, she said, no, it's just that. And that's maybe to your sense of togetherness. It's, you know, in Africa, it's something that we unfortunately have from our economic condition and situation is, you know, there is a scarcity mentality. You know, there is so much people coming at you every time.
Yeah.
No matter how high you get, even if it's a little level of success, you will get so much people coming at you, asking for help, asking for partnership, that you get quickly overwhelmed. And people never even come to you thinking about what they can bring to you. They always come out of a place of what you can bring to them. And that's extremely difficult to manage the bigger you get. I know, for example, my emails are a mess. People before I was the guy that was always replying to everyone. Today, I'm not sure I can pretend to reply to 1/3 of people rightly, because I just can't. I get to a level of request now that it's complicated to manage. And what I feel like can help togetherness is really for people to have kind of, that's what I try to do at least on Afrikrea, is to, even if I cannot respond to everyone, the person I respond to, I try to use this response and this content to make it something that anyone can see about us, to be transparent about how you can reach us. For example, I always say designers, don't try to talk to me before going on Afrikrea. The best chance to get my attention is create your shop on Afrikrea alone. And when you start selling, I guarantee you that I will come to you. There is no way around it. And when you start selling on the platform, my eyes are on you. That there is no way I can miss it. And togetherness is something like that. Everyone should find a way to shine on its own before trying to get the others to help you shine further. Try to find what you're good at. And to your point of the little jealousy thing, you know, it's normal. Honestly, I'm also sometimes, you know, for example, Afrikrea, you would never before, maybe last year, hear about us before what to do the year we return. Every other platform was getting more press, more mention than us. Because we are the little Francophone guys, people always assumed we were like not that important. And I felt the same way like you did. Other times I was like, how come people are always inviting this platform when actually there is not much volume happening there, there's nothing happening. So everyone has his own feeling of and you know, his own frustration. Everyone has his own frustration, but you know, the only way we manage to keep it going is to say, okay, what am I good at? And keep pushing at what you're good at. You, instead of doing, you know, one of the biggest tips I received in my entrepreneurial career, because I think that's an entrepreneurial question, bigger than even fashion brands. Anyone that does a company has this question, what am I good at? How will I stand out and how will I perform? And you know, one of the biggest tips I ever received in my entrepreneurial career was actually from the biggest entrepreneur I ever met in my life. And that's Jack Ma.
Jack Ma.
Of
in Ghana?
Yeah. Wow. In Ghana, when I met him in Ghana.
I was going to talk to you about it.
Exactly. When I met him, actually, you know, one thing he told me that it really stuck to me since then is that he told me he never understood why people try to improve their weaknesses instead of pushing their strengths. Because I was asking him actually about branding and about marketing, saying how they do, because Alibaba always had this image of the Chinese website that nobody really cared about until they got so big that basically you didn't have any choice but to respect them. And I asked him, how can we get to this level? And he told me, are you good at branding? And I was like, honestly, I'm not. I'm not a branding guy. I'm not good at it. And he said, so don't care about it. He simply told me, why do you care about something you're bad at? Do something you're good at, keep pushing it. And when you are the best in your domain in something, other people that are the best in their domain in something else will come to you, or you can work with them. And then they can recognize what you do and invest the time in speaking to you and working.
Brand. That's a very, and to be honest, I think that's been my experience as well with Accra Fashion Week. And I think Innocent can be a witness to that. We started off with various other events that were always dominated by celebrities and what have you. So when we came on, everyone was like, oh, that's the other event. But then as time went on, we started to bring in these standards with models, with presentation, with our websites. And now it's like it's the main fashion week that people from all over the world are having their eyes on. I just want to share this one idea with you, Moulaye, and see if it can be implemented. And this is coming off what Innocent spoke of in terms of the schools not teaching the other roles. What do you think of the idea of Afrikrea involving some sort of employment aspect to it? So for example, if a designer wants a marketing manager, or if a designer wants a tailor, there can be a sort of job
Yes.
session. So other people with other qualities can start registering, and it becomes a business or a job. And then I think, I'm just throwing an idea. I think it can be.
Yeah, there is a need for it. There is a need for it, and that's something that one day I hope we will be able to accomplish. To answer your question, the only reason we didn't do it is because I'm not very good at matchmaking myself.
Right.
I try to get involved in only the things I think we are good at, but there is definitely a need. And if anyone ever one day is good at matchmaking and says to us, okay, guys, we can help your designers matchmake with partners, with employees, we will gladly support. That's really, you know, the one thing I try to keep going for us is to stay focused, but at the same time, stay open to how we can help. So if there is any day, one day, someone that is very good at matchmaking comes to me saying, okay, we are very good at finding good employees, but we're looking for companies, looking for people, I will gladly do all the efforts needed.
No, so sorry to cut you. So what I mean is, like, a designer has a profile on your website, then there can be a button for put out employment call. They click it, then they click the role, that sort of thing, and it's like automated. So if you do that, then maybe Innocent and I can come and get some of the royalties from that 10 million.
But very much needed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I could definitely try. The issue is that I know our designers are already very solicited in terms of needs and getting all incoming, you know, customers' requests. If I had to it, the HR requests and people willing to apply, they're going to kill me. You know, at some point, I need to make it something that they can subscribe to and get involved to when they. For example, I will give you an example. Grassfields, for example, are always looking for people to help in their customer service, but they're struggling.
Wow.
Nana works the same thing. So no matter the level, what you said is right. No matter their level, they always need good people. There is no level in which you don't need good people. The issue is that it becomes even harder to do it, like I said, when you have to juggle with all the rest. So definitely one day, I hope we'll be able to do that. We are thinking about it because we also have a lot of influencers coming to us, wanting to talk with this brand or this brand or this brand. So we try to find. We need to find a way of matchmaking, of making the people meet each other. But to be honest,
I think for the start, and like I said, this is also a little bit outside of branding, so I'll just make this note and move on. I think for the start, you can have like a job call or a bulletin board, and every designer on it. So if a designer is looking for a style influencer, they'll put the job call out, how many followers they want the whatever to have. If they're looking for a tailor, if they're looking for a customer service person. So I want to work in fashion, but I'm not a tailor, I can go to Afrikrea, I can select the country, and I can see the jobs available and contact that particular designer. I don't know how you attach it for it to be profitable, but I'm sure you'll figure something out. You know,
honestly, yes. You know, the goal is not always be profitable. My goal is to help if I help my sellers find the right team, their sale will increase and I'm getting profitable. So, you know, it's full circle. I don't need to, I don't need to make money at every end point. When you are a real partner with someone, you make money when they do. So anything you can fit for them, it's a good way to make more money for you. So it's just a matter of priorities and be able to deliver, because it's not something we are very good at, but we need to work on it. You're right.
Exactly. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple more questions and then we'll round up. So Pivot, just coming back to the schools, you actually do communication for one school, which is Rios, and I know Rios are very good at training designers how to become designers in 6 months. How important do you feel it would be for schools like Rios and the other schools we know in Ghana, to have at least 1 year or 6 months just hardcore dedicated to teaching the designers how to brand themselves right after they're finished with learning how to be tailors?
Okay. I communicated with the CEO of Reels some time ago, and then they have a master class for most of the students. But so funny enough, most of them have the perception, okay, I'm going to school. After school, I'm going to sew. That is what they have. And so amazingly, most of them do not attend the master class. Most of them, just a few. And then schools coming together to have a master class, they see themselves as competition, not partners. So it's going to be quite difficult when it comes to schools coming together in Ghana to have a master class or whatever for designers. Because they feel like, okay, the new faces that will come, they'll end up going to school A, or the new faces that school A will pull, they'll end up going to school B, because those schools will feel like, the students will feel like, okay, school A is far better than school B. So it's going to be quite difficult on a partnership level. But I think they can have issues solved within. That is maybe an intern level, whereby they work with the designers together. As I mentioned earlier on, they're having a project together. But on the external level, it's going to be quite difficult because they see themselves as competitors.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want us to look at a few things that I noted down, and I just want to go through them real quickly, and then we're going to give our closing remarks. So starting with you, Moulaye, okay. First, let's start with fashion weeks. You said, of fashion shows. You said you're working with, you're a sponsor on Lagos Fashion Week. I think we saw your logo, Afrikrea logo.
Not a sponsor, but a partner in notably in the experience of selling online, X-Retail, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. How important do you feel fashion weeks are to designers in this modern day and time? Like, I know I'm a fashion week organizer, so you can be as blunt as you want. Do you think it's relevant today? I mean, Grassfields is one of your top brands, and they don't do any fashion shows. Do you think fashion...
I think Fashion Week is, for example, what I always say to designers is, Fashion Week is a great way to structure your company. Like, if you are at the stage where you need to showcase your product and have a coherent collection, for example, Fashion Week is a great, it's kind of like an exam for me. Like, you know, you are not doing exam all of your life, but it's good to have the certification of a Fashion Week, in the sense that you're able to present a coherent collection, worn by models, to structure a presentation and a universe, etc. So that's good, especially when you start out. The best thing with a Fashion Week is when you can leverage it to get more visibility. For example, etc. What is just lacking currently in Fashion Weeks most of the time for most designers is to tie it to selling. So some of them, I tell them you can use the pictures to sell it online afterwards, but the ideal would be that when the Fashion Week is happening, at the same time, people can order the clothing. That would be the ideal, and the thing that I'm yet to see very often on Fashion Weeks happening. So that's where I think the Fashion Weeks, obviously the COVID situation will make it easier. As most Fashion Weeks are going to be more and more online, because there will be less and less of people being able to come for Fashion Weeks, I think the live dimension can be very interesting in being partners with us, for example, to sell also online as it's going live. So in my opinion, when you are a big brand, a Fashion Week is not necessarily, except if you want to grow in a market. For example, if you say you want to grow in Accra, yes, I believe going to the Accra Fashion Week is necessary, because some brands come to me, for example, saying, I want to grow in Nigeria. And I say, but you can go to the Nigeria, because to some extent, at least the local public is going to still see the Fashion Week as their gateway to get new brands. So, and that makes sense also business-wise. So it's really a matter. Fashion Week is really, for me, a great tool, but you cannot hope for Fashion Week to fix everything. You cannot say my whole strategy for distribution is to do Fashion Week. That doesn't work.
Yeah. And Innocent, how do you feel? Do you feel Fashion Weeks are relevant, necessary for designer brands?
Fashion weeks are very necessary. It helps in brand penetration. Most designers in Ghana, when it comes to, for instance, a designer in Nigeria wanting to participate in Fashion Ghana, one, it helps cut down costs because if you wanting to penetrate the Ghanaian market, you are coming up with a whole lot of campaign structures or campaign strategies. And campaign strategies, you are going to pay people over here a whole lot. But you participating in Fashion Ghana, for instance, one, you penetrated the Ghanaian market, whereby Fashion Ghana, the audience participating in Fashion Ghana will end up knowing your brand. So it's very important for designers to participate in fashion shows. And then it helps cut down costs. That's two important stuff when it comes to fashion shows or fashion weeks.
Okay. And then also looking at because we've already we spoke about the social media celebrities. Do you think, starting with you, Innocent, do you think celebrities, I mean, it's a bit obvious that they do help branding, but what would you advise people when they want to use celebrities to push their brand forward? How would you advise them to go about it?
Okay, the first thing to look at when it comes to having celebrities or working with celebrities, you need to look at your organizational missions. If you are a luxury brand, a fast fashion brand, or a brand for the middle class, those are the maybe 3 or more things you should look at. And then you should know the type of celebrity you partner. For instance, let's say a luxury brand such as Christy Brown. And then having, let's say, Pakafa, well, it doesn't match. So you need to look for the type of celebrities. And then you shouldn't look at having a short-time profit. One, having partner celebrities help in brand awareness. That is the number one thing, an increase in numbers. So in marketing, brand awareness is very important. If you can have the brand awareness sent out, and then you can manage those first years and transforming them from a customer level or prospective customer level to consumers. So I think celebrities play key role in the fashion industry, but it depends on the type of organization you want to create for yourself and the celebrity you want to match with.
Okay, and Moulaye, okay, so Afrikrea being an international platform and you're getting brands from different countries, do you ever have any experience where all of a sudden you see the increase in sales of a particular brand because a celebrity wore their stuff? Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, of course. We had several designers wore by Beyonce. So basically, you know, that's the kind of thing that you tend to see.
And the sales jump up right after.
You know, to Innocent point, I'm not as bullish. He said it's a matter of where you're able to pull off. You know, some people being worn by Beyonce was basically a curse for them because basically they ended up with so much incoming needs. Then they started, you know, it depends on how you're managing. For example, I will give you an example. Some brands, when Beyonce wore them, their reflex was to increase their price.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And they didn't sell at this point. Or they sold way less than they would because their product was not supporting the high price point they were putting because Beyonce wore them. You know, it's not, Innocent was right. It's not because you have a celebrity wearing your thing that your product is necessarily going to sell. You have to match it properly. Like Beyonce's, for example, is appealing to everyone, basically, like, you know, but not everyone is going to be able, because Beyonce wore it, to buy it. Like, there is some level to it. Other brands, because they managed to actually pull off, because they were already at a certain price point, they already had a certain organization. When Beyonce came in, they just pushed out the content and they pushed out and they were able to follow up with it. Because, you know, even when a celebrity wears your product, I think Innocent can confirm, afterwards, it's also your job to publicize the fact that you were worn by the celebrity. It's not the end of the work. Some people feel like, they wear it, they put it from social media. No, that's only the beginning of the work, and that's when you need to keep pushing and work on it. So, in my opinion, it's kind of something like, it's what I say for celebrity wearing is pretty much the same thing as social media as a global thing. It's an accelerant to an already existing burning fire of sales, but it cannot create sales where there is none. And once you have the fire burning, you need to be able to provide it with enough wood to keep burning. So you cannot hope for heat to be the only solution. It's just gasoline you pour on an existing fire. If there is no fire, it's just going to make wet wood.
Right. So basically, I think what we've gathered from this conversation is that one, branding is necessary, you know, but it's necessary to the point that it has to be organic, because following what the advice Jack Ma gave you is, if you're not good at this, don't do it. Do what you're good at. And I think in another way that is branding, because if you keep doing what you're good at, that would overturn become your brand, you know. Another thing that we're also saying is stick to your identity. Look at what is befitting to your brand, and don't lose it because you see something else is making more money, because that thing that's befitting to you tomorrow might be trending, and when it starts trending, everyone's going to look into your direction. And when it comes to celebrities, be open. Don't just say, oh, this person is popular, because someone can be popular for doing something stupid. I mean, in Ghana, we have a lot of celebrities who are celebrities. So don't just say this person has 100,000 followers, I'm going to give them money to sell it. You have to look at celebrities that appeal to your sort of, so when it comes to branding, technically, if we're to be honest, if you're a tailor and you're a skilled designer, if you don't have money, yes, work on it yourself. But this is not a field that you should just get up and say, okay, I'm going to do my brand. And this is something that someone who can devise your strategy for your vision and your characteristics and your personality and your designs will bring it out of you. This is not something, so technically this is something that people should be looking to employ people at. So this is a wide vacuum of employment for fashion, because you can't tell me that Gucci doesn't have a wide team of brand and marketing managers that are not, I mean, people don't even think about this. But to me, when I wake up and I see Davido and Wizkid wearing Gucci, it's no mistake. It's not that they went abroad and they went to buy it. I bet you every single penny that Gucci is shipping a whole bunch of stuff to those people, because they know once those people wear it, the large Nigerian base of people are going to wear it. But Gucci is not going to put a billboard ad saying that they're sending it to these African celebrities, because it's going to affect their branding where their rich white people are. But they'll do this sort of shadow advertising and shadow branding. So I think it's a very broad thing, and it's not something that I can conclude and say, hey, all designers, take this with you. But in closing, I'd just like to say, if you are to give someone just a little summary of advice on what they should do if they want to step up their branding, Moulaye, you could go first. What would you, in a few sentences, what would you say this is where you should go?
Be consistent. That for me, it's always the same thing. Be consistent, be regular more than you are flashy. Don't try to innovate. Try to maintain. If you're able to stick to creating one product a week, stick to creating one product a week. But don't try to wait for every 6 months to create 12 products and then go back in your place on your bunker. That doesn't work. Stick to being consistent. Even small but consistent is more effective than strong one. It doesn't work. It's more complicated. And the one thing for branding for me that makes sense is be consistent, be coherent. Do things that you can do every day, every week. And when you do that, like I said for English Doll or for Grassfields, if you're able to every week shoot a product, create a product and sell it, I'm guaranteeing you that the end result is people are going to start identifying who you are. But the best way to do to be at your level is do it step by step. Don't try to go all the way in and do a big launch, and then afterwards it's flat out. It doesn't work like that. I know it's counterintuitive, but be consistent and coherent rather than flashy.
Okay. And Pivot, what would be that summary advice you would give for designers that are saying, how can I work on my branding?
Okay. I'll take it from a 3 point. Quality. That will be my first point. Second will be that is market appeal. Market appeal, the cognitive appeal, emotional appeal. Make sure you involve your consumers in every process. Make them feel part of the story. And also use their information. I've realized most African designers are able to take data of their consumers or customers. Use their information. A simple birthday, happy birthday, with an image of the customer, everything may make that customer a faithful consumer to you. And then the last one is have an identity. So those are the 3 points: quality, market appeal, have an identity.
Okay. So, and just to close, I'd like to say that when you come in, and I said this in the last seminar, remember, you are not just competing with the Ghanaian next door or the African designer next to you. You're competing with the major brands in the West, because when you look at what Africans are wearing, they are wearing Western brands. So when you come out, and even the Western brands, like Moulaye pointed out, it's not just the African brands that are struggling. The Western brands too are struggling. And the main brands that we see, they're not all just a bunch of brands individually doing their own thing. Most of them are owned by 6 companies. And if anyone wants to check this out, just Google fashion brand ownership. I actually just did it, so I'm going to put that to my screen so people can see what we're looking at. Most of the big brands you can see, from Gucci to Dolce & Gabbana to Fendi, all owned by 6 major brands. So this is what you're competing with. You're competing with major conglomerates. So your baby steps now, if you don't act on them quickly, if you act on them quickly, this is where you could be. I want to thank my speakers for joining me: Moulaye from Afrikrea, Innocent from fashionpivot.com. I'm very proud of these brothers and what they're doing for Africa as a whole, giving us our own platforms, which is very necessary. And luckily for me, happily for me, I didn't talk as much as I did in the first seminar, where I didn't give the guests much room. I had to actually watch it over to realize I was actually a bad host. So I said, this time I'm going to let you guys speak more. And I don't know if any last words before I close. Moulaye, any last words?
No, thank you for the opportunity.
You can talk about your business and what anything in a minute, what you're doing.
In a minute, thank you for having us. I hope that more brands know that they can start small, or no matter how old they are, they can still progress. And I hope that they will choose to work with us. Like I said, we can help not only for selling online, but also shipping. And now we're just starting working on payments, because now you can create a link to get paid for free from social media or from WhatsApp, and withdraw your money with a Visa card. So I hope this is something that will appeal to a lot of designers, because I know how hard it is to get paid, even when you have the right product. So just like I said, we are here to help if anyone wants more info and more details and how we can. But thank you for the opportunity.
And you're in Senegal right now, or Morocco? Where are you right now?
Right now? Yeah. In Ivory Coast, in Abidjan, where we are.
Oh, just next to us. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I'm ready. I'm right here.
And Innocent, any last words?
Okay, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I really appreciate it. And always feel free to send your publications to Fashion Pivot. If we can push your brand, let's work together. I'm always open for any fashion designer, any fashion brand in Africa and Ghana. Thank you.
All right, and I want to thank everyone who's tuned in. Like I said at the start, this is the virtual edition of Accra Fashion Week. So all these fashion shows that are coming, you can literally watch them online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/Accra Fashion Week. Follow us on all platforms, Accra Fashion Week, as well as Fashion Ghana, which is our headline and sponsor and our organization. We also have clothes that people can buy on all these platforms. platforms. So do what you have to do, support African fashion. Let's all get involved. Yes, we know our designers need to improve their branding, but there's also going to be a little push that has to come from we, the public, the society, to keep pushing not only the brands, but platforms like Afrikrea, fashionpivot.com, and more. And with that, I would say goodbye and enjoy the the Accra Fashion Week shows tomorrow, Saturday, 12th December, and Sunday, 13th December. Have a nice